inner cover with the 3 escape boards that are up there. There's too much in my mouth. I was greedy.
The reused wax, could that have come from the bottom board because they had eaten into their honey stores?
It could be, or they could have just chewed up a frame that was, piece that was next to it and moved it over. They use honey from wherever you want to see them use it from. Use wax from wherever you want to use it from. Now the most benign way of removing your bees from the honey supers is with things called escape boards. And I want to tell you before I go another step, none of them work. They just don't. If you are in an environment where one of these things work, this is an old Porter bee escape. They're as cheap as they come. They're a couple of bucks. You stick them in the inner cover hole. You put the honey supers above them. And supposedly the bees go down through this escape. You go through those 2 little wires that are inside there, and they can't get back in.
Supposedly.
But when are they going to go down through there?
When they feel like it.
When it's cold. When they need to go down and warm up with their sisters below and start forming a winter cluster, they'll go through this thing to do that. Otherwise, they're going to stay on the honey. You put one in, you come back in 2 days, you look, it's still full of bees. So you leave it, you come back in 3 days, it's still full of bees. You get 30-degree night, you come back the next morning and it may be half empty. Another 30-degree night, it may be empty. But you just waited 2.5 weeks to get your bees out of that box. This weather, they'll never leave the honey. They're just going to sit on it. You know, if there's a least little bit of a hole anywhere, they're going through that hole and they're going to take that box and empty it overnight and they're going to put it down below.
Oh, yeah.
The least little crack, least little hole, least anything. They will have that whole honey super emptied out and stored down below in the brood chamber. You'll come back the next morning and you say, oh, look, all the bees are gone. And you got this 4-pound box of honey box that you walked up to the house with. These things here, as cheap as they come. If you want to try one, by all means, wait till it gets colder or something like that. But generally, these are really good for the honey house. You put them in the corner of the screen, up top. The bees go into these and go out through, and they're outside. They're not in the honey house anymore. They work good for that, but that's the only place I found them to be anywhere near useful.
So how do you get your bees off?
Oh, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. Okay? This is another escape board. This one works better than the Porter because you have 3 holes. You also have a very large hole here, so many more bees can go down into it and go travel supposedly along one of these tracks, and they get out, and then they don't go back in, theoretically. Again, none of these really work. I think the people that invented these were bee suppliers. They invented them to get money out of your pocket and into theirs. It's what it is. I know no places where these things really work. For comb honey, they would be beautiful because the bees won't open the comb honey as they're leaving. They'll leave it sealed up because it's so benign. There's no smoke involved. There's no anything involved. And these conical bee escapes, guess what? Another company made those. Some company made these that wasn't making the others. And, oh, there's one. There it is. I'll go back real quick. They still don't work. These go down on the bottom. This is on the top. The bee's supposed to come down through the holes, crawl out through the conical bee escapes. Okay? Yeah.
They didn't read that book.
Yeah, they didn't read those.
You just saw $30 worth of stuff there that probably doesn't work. Okay, my favorite, and I know there's a host here that aren't gonna buy into this, but you know what? I run almost 100 colonies of bees. I don't have time to bump and brush. We're gonna do a bump and brush later on and show you how to do it. I know this is introducing something that doesn't belong in there. It'll even work. There it goes. This is called honey robber. It's a chemical called butyric anhydride.
Yeah.
I know.
Pretty good, huh?
Sounds bad. It stinks, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It
that's what they
doesn't smell
think
good
too.
with
Yeah.
Bees either. Bees don't like it either. But in the sunlight, with the heat building on this, in about 10 or 15 minutes, that box will be empty of bees. And you take the whole box in one swoop. You don't take every frame out and shake the bees back in. You take the whole box and you're all done. It's if you're going to do a number of hives, when any of you get into 4 or 5 hives, and you're looking at one of those years when every box has 3 or 4 supers on it, bumping and brushing that many bees over the course of a day is a lot of extra work. It's a whole bunch of work that, you know, maybe you don't need. Now there's other ones. This particular product is Honey Robber. It's from Man Lake. I think it works as good as anything. It's a derivative of Bigo, which was made by Dadan, I believe, or Kelly, one of the two.
They didn't.
They're both basically the same thing. Benzaldehyde will work on these boards too, but it requires a really good sunny day, no clouds. Benzaldehyde is extract of almond. If you want to go more natural kind of a thing. Now people like Brushy Mountain, they've come out with their own form of Honey Robber. It's called Natural Honey Robber. It has more spices and other stuff in it. And again, it's one of those products. I've used it before. Yeah, okay. I want
Speaking of Honey
4
Robbers,
fuel
I gotta
boards in
steal
that field of 12 hives rather than 3.
Maybe you should throw.
Because it's going to be just that much slower to get all of those bees out of the boxes. Now, when my wife and I work beehives in a yard of 12, I can put 3 of these on. I walk into the field, I pop 3 lids with the smoker. My wife comes along, throws the 3 fume boards on right behind me. I go to the truck, and I generally put my hat and veil on. This is the time of year to really, you should wear a hat and veil. By the time I get my hat and veil on and all tied down, and my wife has started opening whatever medications we're going to use on the bees that day, because we medicate the day we pull our honey, the first honey super is empty. My wife will come over, she'll pull the board off, I'll walk the honey super to the truck, she puts the board back on. By the time I get back, the next hive is ready, and the next hive is ready. And as fast as we can walk back and forth to the truck, well, as fast as I can walk back and forth to the truck, which is pretty slow, those honey supers are void of bees. There are no bees in them. And we're totally ready to harvest our honey. I will tell you this, no matter which one of the chemicals you use to drive the bees out of that super, if there's open honey or there's brood in there, you're having a lot more difficulty getting them off it because they don't like to leave it, particularly brood. You can leave one of these things on there for a day and they still won't leave that brood. They'll hang right onto it, trying to finish it and protect it from whatever's happening.
Do you respray, Rick, as you put it on the next super, or is there enough on the...
Generally, I can do three in a row without having to respray. And I did not use a whole lot of chemical on that. I used to have a different bottle that had a pour spout on it rather than a spray, and it would get just a little bit more chemical on it as it went. And that actually seemed to work a little bit better, but you weren't covering the entire board either. You're just making a Z or an X across the thing, and that worked really, really good. But again, it's one of those things about, you know, it's all temperature sensitive. If the sun was out now right bright, this would probably be empty. Instead, I've got to frame it in the middle.
Rick, was
Still
that the
has-
amount you
It
usually
still has
spray
about
on?
4 bees on it.
Is that the amount you usually spray on, what we just
Yeah.
saw?
Yeah, and that'll I can usually do 3 repetitions with that one board.
Can you
Sometimes
overdose?
more.
Can you overdose?
You can, and you'll know the minute you overdose.
They die.
No,
No.
it won't kill them. It will never kill the bees. But the whole surface that'll be covered with bees. They all come up and try to block that stuff up. They all try to cling on the chemical. The minute you overdose it, they come run up on the board and stay on the board. So this is not going to kill bees.
How many squirts did you do? About 4?
4, yeah.